सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम्. So it's Ritu today who's going to summarize for us.
Yes, namaste everyone. So last week we covered quite a bit of chapter 6 and a lot of important shlokas. So chapter 6 is Dhyana Yoga, and we talked that how meditation is not different from Gyan Yoga. It only strengthens the knowledge, and then you can make it your own knowledge. Ignorance is removed by knowledge, but the full benefit really is when you become established in your knowledge. And a few questions were posed in this chapter 6 by Arjuna. And who is the meditator? So, and what is meditation? So the one who does his duty with the right attitude, without any attachment to the fruits of action, that person alone is fit to be a sannyasi or yogi, and they are both the same. And with meditation, you can lift yourself by strengthening your mind, and mind is your own best friend, and it can be the worst enemy. So if we understand this clearly, we can take charge of the actions. And what is meditation? All experiences are felt as a balanced approach by dhyata, the meditator, without getting overwhelmed. The opposites in our life, the joys and sorrows, the meditator or sannyasi or yogi is remain untouched by those situations. The outer situations or paristhiti may be changing all the time. It is changing all the time. But the inner manasthiti is in equilibrium for this yogi. And the wise person who understands that everything has a value, whether it's earth, soil, or it's gold. So he treats everything with that attitude. And his attitude toward people is of sambuddhi, which is attitude of feeling same, giving everyone same respect. And this yogi holds his knowledge in firm abidance and spontaneous awareness in Aham Satchidananda Swarupa. He's ever aware of his true self, and it is present with him at all the times. This is ever remaining wisdom, and that is meditation. This awareness of the true nature never goes away. And another question that arises in Shloka 6.12 and 13, why we meditate? And the answer is Atma Vishuddhaye. But then if Atma is already pure, what are we trying to make Shuddha? We are actually purifying our mind and intellect so we can abide in our true nature. And we talked about the process of doing meditation, dhyan vidhi. And that process involves withdrawing the mind from the busyness of life, turning attention to our true nature. The object of meditation is, I may not be clear in this, what I'm saying, but it's about the attitude. It's about the brahmachari who's seeking the truth. He's there with an attitude of brahmacharya, which is remaining in a state of Brahma. So please correct me, Shashiji, if I'm saying anything wrong. And Krishna says, your attitude should be on me, and it should remain there at all the time. Manaha samyamya. And then shloka number 6.15, result of meditation. The person who meditates gets supreme peace of liberation. He gains ananda and contentment. Such great gains, having gained, there is nothing greater to be gained. And he will become unshakable even in times of deep sorrow. The obstacles in meditation could be the physical body and mind. So it's important that we follow moderation in food, sleep, our daily habits, and discipline. Vision of a yogi in Shloka 6.29 is Samadarshi, that which is always the same. That person, that yogi sees self in all beings, and all beings in own self. That yogi is supreme. And that's my revision for last week. Thank you for listening.
Excellent, Ritu, as always. You were right, but the object of meditation is the Supreme Bhagwan, right? You did say that. But the attitude was that Prashantatma Vigata Bihi Brahmachari Vyate Sthitaha was, you sit with that attitude and turn your attention to me. So, because you need to see how we keep our mind too when we sit at that seat of meditation. So be peaceful, don't have any fears or anxieties at that time. And as you said, brahmachari vyatestitaha means give up all your other, whatever the thing that you hold, like I'm a wife or or a sister or a mother or a daughter or a person who's working, all those names that you have tagged along with you, you drop that, because at that time I'm only the seeker, brahmachari, and the seeker of that Brahman, that truth. So otherwise, everything was beautiful. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we can now proceed. And so in this session, we're going to conclude the sixth chapter, the Dhyana Yoga, with something which is very practical, which all of us can, we struggle with, we relate with that. We are like, thank you, Arjuna, for asking this question in the Gita, because it's going to be useful for time immemorial, right? And that's the thing is, our mind is so difficult to sort of, just make it into centered on anything. It's so fickle. How can you do that? Then other question which also comes to people is, we believe in this punarjanma, coming life after life onto this earth. Now, if I start all these wonderful things that we've been prescribed, what if I die and then I have to start with ABCD again as far as this path is concerned? That's a very good point. I mean, can you imagine? We've come this far and then everything goes in vain and we have to start again. Please, let's see what Bhagwan has to say for that. Then we begin the next chapter as well. This is chapter 7 called Jnana Vijnana Yoga. And this is beautiful because Bhagwan is now going to turn attention from you and me. He's been focusing on us, jivas, all this while, giving us all the prescription to move forward in our life, to the point where we've now come to the point of meditation. We've understood that we have to stay with our true nature, the best in me, and meditation is going to help me. And then, but Bhagwan has said, turn your attention to me, and me, that is Paramatma. So a question should come, I don't know who you are, Krishna. Is it just that Murti Krishna that I'm used to? Or is there, who's this God? Who's this Paramatma? I want to understand that. And so Lord Krishna says, all this while I've spoken about you, now I'm going to turn attention to who is me, God. I'm going to explain that. And this is just beautiful, because our concept of God after this, I'll tell you, is just, I think it opens up into something so vast we had never had an idea about this before. And so, okay, I recognize, understand what God is. But then, if you say, God, you're all pervasive, you're omnipresent, then how do I recognize you in the tree? How do I recognize you in this person whom I don't like? How do I recognize you in inert things? In creatures? How do I recognize you? So Bhagwan's going to start giving us pointers, pointers, pointers from something so common like water, and he'll go all the way to explain, the most beautiful and glorious things as well. All the way from 7 to the 10th chapter, you'll see this being interspersed. Okay. Then, to recognize this, he talks about a method of knowledge, jnana, and also in the bhakti marga, how would you approach this? How would I understand Bhagavan everywhere? How would I get to that? And in that context, he'll talk about 4 types of devotees. So we're covering quite a few things, but if you have any questions, always we can talk about it at the end of the, session as well. So what happens? Bhagwan Arjuna is now asking Bhagwan Krishna a question, because he's heard this beautiful talk about meditation, and somehow he feels like this seems impossible. So he asks this question to Bhagwan Krishna. Chanchalam hi manah Krishna.
Chanchalam hi manah Krishna.
Pramati balavadrudham.
Pramati balavadridam.
Tasyaham nigraham manye.
Tasyaham nigraham manye.
Vayoriva sudushkaram.
Vayura iva sudushkaram.
He says, Chanchalam hi mana Krishna. Are Bhagavan Krishna, this mind is so fickle. It is so restless. This yoga you're asking me to establish myself in, that yoga of equanimity, that is maintaining, looking at everybody with that vision of oneness and maintaining that equanimity in pairs of opposites. I don't think it's possible. I don't think it's possible, right? He says, because mind is so restless, so fickle, chanchalam, and pramati, and not only this, chanchalam is turbulent, constantly churning with this idea, that idea violently, and balavat, it is very strong. My mind is very strong. I don't have any control over that. Okay, that's what he says. And then of course, we've left our mind to do what it wants for not only this life, many, many lives. Okay, so obviously it's become very strong. And then not only that, he says, it is unyielding. Drudham means it's firm. It doesn't, I can't convince my mind so quickly. So it's very drudham as well. And when you think about it, if you are, say there's going to be a storm, right? And with storm, lot of destruction can happen. He compares this to a strong windstorm. He says, Vayo rivad sudushkaram, he says. So it's so strong like a windstorm, but at least with that windstorm or that hurricane, we do get some warnings. The weatherman will tell us about all this, and so we can do something about it. Even tornadoes, even if they're approaching, we can go to the basement or something. We can take here with our mind. What warning do we get? Suddenly we don't know why it's turned in that direction. And not only that, even if we get certain warnings, where can we run away? It's our own mind. So Arjuna's question seems so apt for all of us. My goodness, thank you, Arjuna. You're so kind. You did, speak exactly what I had in my mind. My mind is so fickle, so restless, and you're asking me to sit down in meditation and keep it focused, and afterwards have this attitude of, watching everything with that oneness and that balance. I don't think it's possible. And Bhagavan Krishna is always the compassionate teacher. He says he agrees with the student right away. And then he'll tell him something else. Shri Bhagavanuvacha
श्रीभगवानुवाच
Asamshayam Mahabaho
असंशयं महाबाहो
Mano Durnigraham Chalam
मनो दुर्निग्रहं चलम्
Abhyasena tu kaunteya
अभ्यासेन तु कौन्तेय
Vairagyena cha गृह्यते.
वैराग्येण च गृह्यते.
Says, no doubt, Arjuna. Asamshayam Mahabahu. There is no doubt about what you said. Mano Durnigraham Chalam. Yes, it is very, very hard to get hold of, and it's very, turbulent. It is chanchala. I agree with everything you said. But you know what? It can be brought under control. It can be. By how? He says, by repeated practice, by abhyasa, and developing certain amount of detachment. But that dispassion or that detachment, a little bit moving away, not being in it all the time, just by a little bit more detachment and by continuous practice, you will be able to control the mind. So, and all of us know we cannot discipline our mind right away, right? But slowly, with understanding, with conviction, it can be. It can be controlled. And now we can apply certain techniques, but most importantly, let us truly understand the nature of our mind. Is it always chanchala? Is it always restless and fickle? Is it always turbulent? Let us see. Because when we analyze that, then we will see, maybe not so. Maybe not. That's not the nature of our mind. We'll see that, huh? Because Arjuna is saying it is the nature of the mind, right? Now you see, you take fire. Fire is hot. We definitely cannot have a cold fire. Impossible. But if you take water and heat it, that hot water will lose the heat after some time because that's not its nature. Water's nature is not to be hot, right? So we can see, let's understand this mind of ours and see what its nature is. So when do we get, this agitation? What makes us agitated? What makes us mind restless? We'll try to understand, and we'll also understand that what its original nature is. So now, if restlessness was ever the nature of mind, and if you said that's all it is, my mind is always restless, right? That means we can never sleep. We can never sleep, and we cannot calm ourselves down as well when we have some, anger or some agitation happens. We see that we come back to our peaceful state, right? So it's showing us that if we can sleep, if we can calm ourselves down, and we do have calm moments, it shows that those things which came were all incidental, induced. Okay, so that anger came in, and then my mind went back to its natural state. That agitation subsided, and therefore I was able to sleep. So, all these things clearly point out to us that peace, in fact, is the natural state of the mind. Our natural state, when we get so agitated and we think, oh, remember, it's actually peace is the natural state of the mind, right? And whatever has happened, it's because of the various factors that come in and cause us problems. So now, what causes restlessness? In the second chapter of the Gita itself, we saw that our selfish desires and self-centered, cravings for our own pleasure, our ego, which sort of has all wrong understanding, and that wanting to possess and not let go, that attachment to everything, these are the things which cause the mind to get agitated. Throughout, Bhagwan will analyze this, so you don't have to, wonder. But if you have questions regarding how they do that, you can ask as well later on. But anyway, it's our unselfish desires, our incessant craving for one thing after another, and our I, which is a wrong understanding, and that very attachment to various things causes this. Otherwise, we've seen that even in second chapter, that Purusha, that Sthita Pragna Purusha, got that Shantim Param, Nirvanam Adhigachati. He did get that supreme peace he could get. So clear, if you drop these tendencies to, latch on to these various negative tendencies, then we ourselves can go back to that state of peace. So that is a good thing to know for us. Okay, mind is nature is peace. Excellent. Now, what is the mind craving for through all those things that we said? Whether it was the desire, whether it was that pleasures, whether it's our ego with its whatever thinking or that attachment, it wants to be happy. If our mind is happy, we ourselves know how we feel, right? We feel, I don't need anything. The mind is so, balanced. So this happiness, what we try to do is you show it something better. If it's going to all these small things, you show something more elevated. And so when it latches on to something more better, it drops that which is not important. It's like a little child in a way. You have a child, a baby in the house, a little, toddler or somebody who's picked up something he should not be, a pair of scissors, which was, by mistake, somebody had left it on the table. And you're like, oh my goodness, it'll hurt. So what do you usually do? Because the more you try to go catch that kid with the scissors, they think it's a game and they start running with it, right? So what do? You take a candy or something which the kid loves or a toy and say, hey, come on, bacha, take this, baby, you'll give me that thing. And the kid immediately, without any effort, transfers its scissors to your hand and takes that candy, right? That's exactly what we have to do. Both in meditation and in life, we have to show something better, something more elevating to the mind, and then it'll slowly drop all these negativities. Slowly let go of all these things which trouble the mind. You don't even look at all these as negativities. They trouble us, you drop it. So agitation is not the nature of the mind. Peace is its nature. Restlessness, etc. are caused by, are induced, they're caused, they're temporary. So we should be able to evaluate what upsets us, right? What upsets us, what disturbs us, and we should move away from them. And then we should show some things which will, for its greater and greater happiness, we should show that. So how satsang brings us so much of peace. What will happen is, over a period of time, you want to read more and more of this, or that abhyas which you're doing, which is giving you more and more peace, you slowly start moving towards that. So the mind can be brought under control. Arjuna, don't worry. And when we do that with patience and practice, other things will fall off. That is the dispassion. And the abhyasa has happened. Then it becomes easy to appreciate what I'm telling you through dhyana yoga, that vision of seeing, samatvam everywhere and maintain that samya buddhi also at all times, equanimity at all times. So Arjuna hears this, but he's another question. He's deeply concerned that, if I follow the path you're asking me to, what if I suddenly have to putting forth so much effort, giving up all my parties and pleasures and everything, and then if I die, what happens to me after that? What's the problem? I mean, what is, will I be left sort of midway and then, or after that death, I have to start all over again? So if person renounces everything, sincerely practices this, but has not yet got that supreme state of, understanding true nature, if he dies, that perfection that has not happened, if that person dies, or I might be doing a few things together. Okay, I can't devote myself to this path 100% of the time, Bhagwan. So, I'm practicing because I like all this. So I'm putting my effort, but it's not 100%. And then suddenly, or I might even drop this after some time. What happens to such a person? Is the effort all wasted? What happens? I have to, as I said, do I have to start from kindergarten class in spirituality and once again move from there? Bhagavan says, no, you don't worry, Arjuna. I'll tell you why. So he says, Shri Bhagavan Uvacha
श्रीभगवानुवाच
Partha Naiveha Namutra
पार्थ नैवेह नामुत्र
Vinashastasya Vidyate
विनाशस्य शस्तस्य विद्यते
Nahi Kalyanakrit Kaschit
न हि कल्याणकृति कश्चित्
Durgatim Tata Gachati.
दुर्गतिं तात गच्छति.
Don't worry, Arjuna. You think it's not the karma, it's not stored somewhere? Of course it is stored. Of course the karma palas are stored. That's why people are being born again and again and again. So be very reassured. Don't worry. If you're all putting this effort, it's not wasted. Either what will happen, if we still have a lot of desires, we're part of the world and also practicing a little bit of this, learning the Gita, doing some satsang, etc., etc., etc. Next birth, of course, he says, you'll go to heaven, which we might not know, but anyway, we might enjoy the pleasures of heaven. And when that's all the punya is done, we are born in a virtuous family, meaning the atmosphere will be conducive for us to move from where we left. So that's very reassuring. But if you're somebody who's already very dispassionate, have given up everything, and you're focusing on this path alone and you drop dead, you will come back very quickly into a family which is completely into this. So that right from day one, you're pushed on this path. Left where we had left in previous life, immediate connection happens. This is just an incredible thing, and it is now being promised by the Lord himself. This is, coming not from a person, but actually God alone, who is the karma paladhata, who watches all over our karmas and also is able to, whoever deserves what, according to what we have done, we should get it. That happens automatically, is looking at all this. So every effort we put in this direction, for us, that is the most important thing, is not wasted. It is definitely going to benefit us in this life. This is what we have to see, Devis. For us, this is a very reassuring thing. Any little thing will make certain changes in our mind, will make certain changes in our lifestyle, will bring some more peace to us. We live a little bit more with ease with ourselves. These beautiful things will happen here. And for sure, as the Lord is promising, we will just take off from where we left. There is no gap. This is a great thing that Bhagavan Krishna himself reassures us in chapter 6 at the end. And at the end of this, so he tells Arjuna, you please turn your mind to me, okay? And you stay with me and you attain me, he says. So Arjuna must have looked at him, like, me, you, my friend Krishna, what are you talking? On you should I focus? So Bhagavan says, no, you listen. I'm going to change the channel now. He begins the 7th chapter. All this while I was talking about you and all the jivas, right? Who are going through their karmas and therefore have to do karma yoga to purify themselves, and then go through all the, dharmas we go through. You jivas, you now practice this and you come to meditation, he said. Now I'm going to turn channels and turn attention to who God is, that Paramatma. Who is this God? Then let's see who this God is. Bhagavan is now going to talk about himself in Jnana Vijnana Yoga, the 7th chapter. He himself begins this chapter with a beautiful shloka where he says, Shri Bhagavan Uvacha
श्रीभगवानुवाच
Maya Saktamanah Partha
मय्यासक्तमनः पार्थ
Yogam yunjanmadashrayah
योगं युञ्जं मताश्रया
asamshayam samagram mam
असंशयं समग्रं माम्
yatha jnāsyasi tat shrunu.
यथा ज्ञानसि तत् शृणु.
So, knowing this, you have to listen in such a way, Arjuna. Arjuna, you should listen in such a way that, when I teach you this, asamshayam samagramma, you will come to know completely, in totality, without any doubt. But how should I listen? What should my attitude be when I listen to you? So he says, your mind should be devoted to this. Your mind should say, you know what? I want this. I want this because you know what? I want to live peacefully in this world. I want to live in this world giving the best that I can. I want to be able to face the challenges of this life, right? So I should be really devoted to this and know that this is the goal of life. If I can understand Bhagwan is in me, Bhagwan is everywhere, and live with that wisdom, there can't be a greater goal. There can't be a greater goal. So when I listen, my mind should be quiet. My mind should absorb the teachings as I'm listening. And then you know what? I'm ready to put aside a few things, sacrifice things because I want this. And with that attitude, if you listen, Arjuna, you will come to know in totality and without doubt. Bhagwan is promising Arjuna this. But all he asks is, you please think about these things. I want this. Have that, deepest, strongest desire and conviction. This is for my best. I want it. And then with that attitude, if you listen carefully and then, definitely take the points with you and think about it, you will have doubtless knowledge about, Bhagwan is going to say about me, but in that he'll include everything of the world. And so Bhagwan is going to give both jnanam and vijnanam, he says in the next shloka. Okay? What is jnanam and what is vijnanam? We should know. Jnanam is everything of this world in general. Anything, science, math, you take anything of this world, including our medicine of this physical body, of our functions of this body, everything, including psychiatry, psychology, everything is included in jnanam. This is knowledge of the world. This is general knowledge. And Bhagwan is also going to give some special, specific knowledge. And that special, specific knowledge you'll see is so beautiful. That is the realization. Both you will come to know. You'll come to know everything of this world. You can easily, really? Will I know everything of you just wait. I'm going to tell you something very important after this, and by which you'll know general knowledge of the world, of everything of the world, and you'll come to know Vishesha Jnanam or Vijnanam, which is the ultimate as well. So, now some general points. When we look at anything, right? Whether you look at a painting, whether you've gone to a potluck lunch and everybody's brought some very tasty dishes, and or you go and see a beautiful sculpture, when you go to some museum, and or even some beautiful creation, an embroidery or something, you say, hey, who did this? That's our immediate question, because there has to be a cause if you see an effect, right? So now you look at this world, right? You look at this world and you wonder, who could think of something like this? Who could put everything in place like this? How did it all start? What was the cause is the final question, ultimately. So you say, look at the world, you say, who is the cause? So if you understand, that there is a cause too, if you even wonder and say, there must be a cause, if you think like that, when you look at all the effects, that is called jnanam. But when we understand that the cause is that Paramatma, who's nothing other than this, my true self, look at this, That Paramatma, who's the cause of everything, is nothing but my true self, who's also present in everyone. That is Vijnanam. So when I look at the world and I say, there must be a cause, I don't know what that cause is. So I'm wondering and I'm saying, this world, its cause. That is Jnanam. But when I understand, this cause is none other than that Paramatma who's my true nature. And it's the same everywhere. We've got the special Jnanam. That is Vijnanam. So Bhagavan says, I will tell you both now. Knowing that nothing more needs to be known. You've known the cause of cause. Finished. Over. He says, I'll give you that knowledge. And then he says, a little sort of, telling us how fortunate we are in this particular shloka. He says, Manushyanam sahasreshu
मनुष्याणां सहस्रेषु
kaschid yatati siddhaye
कश्चिद्यतति सिद्धये
yatatamapi siddhanam
यततानपि सिद्धानां
kaschinmam vetti tattvataha.
कश्चिन्मां वेत्ति तत्त्वतः.
He says, but Arjuna, not many people are interested in this. Now you see what lofty things he's trying to teach us. And then he says, not many people, there are many, many millions of people on this earth. Very few people will enter into a hall of satsang. You might have noticed that in your own life, not to be critical of anybody. Yeah? This is most important. Because I always tell you, we're always all on the same path. And, I was here at some point and I'm making some steps here. Somebody else might be somewhere behind or in front or somewhere ahead. That's it. But we're all just on one track going towards happiness, our happiness, ultimately. So anyway, there are millions and millions of people who are right at the back because, like in anything, not everybody goes for a PhD. Not everybody is a Fulbright scholar, a Rhodes scholar, right? Very few people. And then so many people are now right here, like 99% of the people, very involved with objective world and life, power, positions, and things like material gains might be right there. Very few go for this ultimate knowledge. Very rare, very rare. And in that, even in that, very few actually truly understand that Vijnanam, that the self in me is the self in all. That's very precious, very rare. Because what happens, either we get sort of, we fall short of efforts, or this path sometimes can be tough. You're doing something which others are not doing at all. So, it's to be the one odd man out. It's not sometimes easy. People will wonder, what's happened to you? Come on, what's going on with you? And we'll very quickly get swayed. It happens to all. And it's not a bad, good, don't again classify anything. So it happens. So to pursue this, to be that different type of a person, to have that enthusiasm, and also come to get this type of satsangs, very rare. So Krishna is saying, look, already people who are even listening to this, we are one amongst that millions and millions and millions. We are those rare ones. So, he's encouraging all of us to say, just keep at it. I'm behind you 100%. But it's very rare to find people walking into halls of satsang. Therefore, although this is the most beautiful knowledge, Arjuna, not everybody has the inclination or the determination and the grit to pursue to this end. Okay, but a big reassuring thing is already we are one amongst the many, 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 many billions already. That's a very beautiful thing for all of us. Okay, now he's going to tell us in the next shloka. You see how he includes everything of what is meant by world. Okay, so let's see what this world is, and then we'll see what he then says, who he is or who we all are in this as well. You just pay attention, close attention to this. Bhumirapo nalo vayuhu
भूमिरापो नलो वायुः
kham mano buddhirev cha
खं मनो बुद्धिरेव च
ahankara iti yam me
अहंकार इति यं मे
भिन्ना प्रकृतिरष्टधा
भिन्ना प्रकृतिरष्टधा
Bhumi, Apa, Anala, Vayuhu, Kham. These are 5 elements, right? Earth, water, fire, air, and space. 5 elements. And in that, afterwards he says, Manaha, Buddhi, and Ahankara. Now, in Vedanta has analyzed everything thoroughly. Everything of this universe, if you see and analyze, it's made up of 5 elements in varying proportions. We ourselves can do a little exercise and take a book and see what are all the things which make up a book of the 5 elements. Anything you take and you analyze, and you'll see the 5 elements are there in varying proportions. Now it doesn't stop right there. You look at your physical body. Sodium, potassium, calcium, magnesium, zinc, iron, carbon, oxygen, phosphorus, etc., etc. In the lab results, you'll know what you're made up of. That's your physical body. And he says even our mind, even our, subtlest instrument, the thoughts, that thoughts only is mind. Even that is electrochemical energy. Little bursts of energy in the brain activity. So even that is energy, means energy matter, we know easily converted to each other. So that means even that is matter. Subtle energy matter. So he says everything made up of 5 elements. Matter. Inert. My mind is inert? Don't worry, we'll explain later. But at this point, you have life, therefore you have a mind. If you did not have life, there would be no mind. Right? No, what thought waves can happen in the brain? So he says, all this, right, are part of my lower nature. This is Prakriti. My Prakriti, me. He says, mine. Right away, Lord Krishna is saying everything, or Lord Paramatma is saying, everything of this universe that you see, which is made up of matter, is me, from me alone. This is my lower Prakriti. It has come from me. He clearly says this. So that is, anything that is inert is me. But also there is another element of mind called the higher Prakriti, which gives life. I'm telling you something very subtle, which as we study Vedanta, we'll come to know, but I'll tell you something. We have a mind intellect equipment, right? We have mind. All of you agree. That mind in us is the one in the presence of consciousness, which is life actually giving principle, that it's supposed to reflect. It's like this. If you place a mirror in and you go stand in front of it, there is a reflection. Agree? No question about that. So this mind, these thoughts, electrochemical energy, when it comes in presence of consciousness, that reflection is the life. Now you see, consciousness has to be there. That mind with this electrochemical energy has to be there. Then the reflection automatically happens. That is life. This consciousness is there. That's it. If it was not there, there's no life. That's why there are some stillborn babies. That's why when the person drops dead, this connection goes away from that physical body. Just keep that in mind, that even the mind intellect is very important, because that's the life giving. Life happens there, but consciousness has to be in front of it. So what Bhagavan is saying now, he's saying this reflection is my higher Prakriti in presence of the mind equipment, but which is also inert matter. Everything else is also inert matter. The only thing is I am this consciousness. This is my true nature. Now in you and me, let's, even if you think, we have inert prakriti, 5 elements, physical body, all the things, organs in us, the brain, everything is 5 elements, made up of 5 elements. We have the mind, intellect, where there is the reflection, that is the higher prakriti, the life-giving principle, and we also are alive. That means there is consciousness in us too. Krishna is saying, I am this plus all this. Now, this is a very revealing thing for us now. God is now, you see what God is. Not just in me and you, in everything. If I look at a stone, if I look at a tree, if I look at a picture, if I look at a curtain, 5 elements are there. That's come from Bhagwan alone. If I look at another person, if I look at another creature, there is life in that person. Aha, that's a higher prakriti. But that cannot happen without that consciousness being there too. That means consciousness is everywhere. This is what Bhagwan Krishna is saying right now about God. We never thought of God like that. God was my Rama, God was my Krishna, God was my Devi. And then, God certainly could not have been in that wicked person. These are our thinkings. Now he corrects it right away. And therefore he says, Arjuna, that's why I am aham kritsnasya jagataha prabhava pralayastada. I am the cause for this universe to come into place. I am the cause for its sustenance. I am the cause for its ultimate. I am the one to which ultimately everything goes, because I am the only thing. I am the only thing. So I, pure consciousness, which is in you and me right now, is one which also has brought out this inert matter everywhere, as well as giving life to everything. When you and I understand that this consciousness is me, you've got the special knowledge, that vijnanam you've got. If you study medicine, if you study psychology, if you study this, if you study that, we are all getting knowledge of the world. If I study medicine, knowledge of the world. Even if I study, intricate workings of my brain, knowledge of the world. Are, I am the one consciousness because of which there's life in this physical body, plus this physical body also has come. When you understand that is vijnanam. Everything is the same. Now this is God realization. This is a very tall, jump for us. But Krishna is showing us right away, because showing that to Arjuna to right away, because he doesn't want us to lag behind in our understanding of what God is. Otherwise, we keep on holding to small things and we make ourselves small. If we open our eyes, this is what he was talking about right in the 2nd chapter, that Atma never dies. This is what he's trying to tell us. Okay? So we'll see this even more. And now beautifully we'll conclude with this shloka. I don't think I can go much beyond this, but it's also, we'll try. Okay. Mattah parataram nanyat.
Mattah parantaram nanyata.
Kinchidasti dhananjaya.
Kinchid asti dhananjaya.
Mayi sarvamidam protam.
Mai sarvam idam protam.
Sutre manigana iva.
Sutre manigana iva.
Arjuna, how it is? You might not see me everywhere, but this is how it is. He says, other than me, as he told, there's nothing else that can be the cause. I alone am everything too, in fact. And everything is so beautifully woven in me like pearls on a thread. So when you look at a pearl string, what you see, we see only beautiful pearls. Sometimes they're of the same, size, of different sizes. Sometimes there might be a variety on that string. Do we ever see the string behind? We don't. Our attention is only on the pearls. Our attention is only on the variety. We do not notice that string. But if the string was not there, everything would fall apart. So he says, I'm there. Everywhere I am. But our attention is on the variety, variety, variety. But I hold everything together. Without me, nothing can be even supported, he says, by giving that beautiful example. Matta parataram nanyat kinchidasti dhananjaya. Other than me, there's nothing else. Mai sarvamidam protam sutre maniganaiva. On me, everything is strung like those pearls. And look at this beautiful Kashmiri embroidery. I love that, looking at the way they do, how skillful these people are. And what do we see here? Of beautiful patterns, beautiful flowers, and different colored threads, and then golds, pink and colored, and blue and red and green and yellow. So many beautiful colors on a cloth, woven on a cloth. Now, first of all, without that cloth, can you weave anything on it? Obviously not. But when you analyze each one of these beautiful flowers, what they're made up of, as well as the cloth, it is that one thread alone. It is that cotton thread, which might be put in certain dyes and, made into different colors. So there has to be a substratum, we understand. And you can look, there can be so many varieties on top, but then essentially they're all common thread. Bhagavan Krishna is saying exactly what's happening right here in this world and around you right now. The consciousness in you, which is me alone, is just the only thing holding everything together. But what our attention is on all the beautiful patterns, on the colors and the shapes and their uses, utilities, that's what we're focusing on. But without me, there can be nothing. Without that background or that cloth, there can be nothing. Without that thread, there can be nothing. That's me. That's consciousness. That's you and me. Because he keeps on saying it's you and me. You and me. And then after this, he'll show us beautiful ways to appreciate. I have time. I'll go into this. Now, starting from even the 7th chapter, right from some mundane things, Bhagavan's going to show us how to appreciate the presence. Because we can say, okay, I understand there has to be a background thread to support everything. So this, I think there has to be a cause which is supporting. I get it. I think I get it. But how can I appreciate you everywhere in this variety? How can I see you, Bhagavan, in everything? So Bhagavan's going to show, look, I'm going to point out certain things so that when you start doing some small things to you, you'll say, oh, that's the presence of God. That's the presence of God, which I can appreciate in small things as well. Yes, he's going to say, and many shlokas come here. It'll come again in the 9th chapter. It'll of course come in detail in Vibhuti Yoga, the 10th chapter. But let's just get a glimpse of them in this. Even let's try to just catch a little of this through this, some of these shlokas here. So he says, look at water. Rasopsaham apsu kaunteya, he says. Rasoham apsu kaunteya, he says, look in water. When you see the liquidity of the water, when you see that water quenches your thirst, it might be tasteless, but it quenches your thirst. That ability to be that liquid, that ability to quench your thirst, that ability without having that liquid, you cannot even, if your mouth is dry, you can't even enjoy food. You can't even appreciate anything. That liquid is so necessary. That liquid nature with that taste which quenches your thirst, that essence of water is me. If you take a lump of sugar, it's not here, but I'm just giving you that example, that sweetness, which is the nature of sugar, that is my expression. If you take a cube of salt, that saltiness in that crystal, that's me. If I look at that beautiful morning today and I look at the sun, and I can't look at the sun after some time because of the brilliant light, or in that, the moon, which is now coming towards Purnima and it's increasing, it's so beautiful, and you look at that light in the night, that light without which both could not be there, either the sun, that's my presence. And if I hear anybody talking, The fact through air that sound waves can, that's ability is me. And when I see somebody, or when I see a plant, or when I see an animal, and see that moving and appreciate, you see life there, I'm expressing there. That's life-giving force I am. And it goes on and on and on. So that we start looking at everything and appreciating Bhagwan's presence. So for us, even just as we take a glass of water when we're thirsty, and the fact that it's quenching our thirst, that ability is Bhagwan's glory. That's the dharma of water, which is Bhagwan. In everything, presence is everywhere. A special quality of anything, because of which a thing is that thing, is Bhagwan's glory. So a special quality is Bhagwan's glory. And then what he says is, in fact, Arjuna, everything that you look at, whether it's inert, whether it's expressing energy, activity, or whether it's expressing a knowledge, peaceful aspects, everything is me alone. All those things have come from me. And understand, right? I am in everything, but they are not in me. This is a little confusing. We'll come again in 9th chapter, elaborate on it. But let's just read this shloka, okay? Echaiva satvika bhava
Ye chev satvika bhava
rajasastamasascha ye.
rajasastamasascha ye.
Very good, Ritu. Okay. Matta eveti tan vidhi.
Mat evetti tan vidhi.
Atvaham teshu te mayi.
Natvaham teshu te mayi.
So all Bhagwan is saying, yes. Now I won't go into Maya right now. Just ignore that first thing. He says, whether you look at anything of the creation, you see a stone, you say that is inert, or if you see, an ant going here and there, or somebody being very restless, active, that's a rajasic aspect. Or if it's all this knowledge, noble things that are, everything comes from me alone. Everything comes from me alone. And he says they're all coming from me, but I am not in them. Now that's just let's take one example and we'll stop at that. What he's trying to say is, let's look at an ocean, okay? And then whether it's a froth or a foam or a bubble or, big, huge tidal waves, everything depend on that ocean. Otherwise, where can you have waves? Where can you have froth? Where can you have foam in that space there? But even that, below that is the water, which is a substratum. Without that water, nothing could be there. So he says, I am that water, and everything depends on me for their existence, whether it's even an ocean depends on me. But I can be there without a wave. I can be there without there being, ocean. I can be there without a froth or a bubble or a wave. So I can be there without any of these things, meaning your and my true nature consciousness is always there. It does not depend upon this mind. It does not depend upon this physical body. It does not depend on the moods of the mind. Nothing happens. I remain. My consciousness remains the same. But without me, consciousness, giving that life, everything would go. And me consciousness is exhibiting everywhere here as life. So they're all depending on me consciousness. But I am always there. So this is all the knowledge. This is explaining in terms of knowledge. Okay, jnanam. So it's a lot of thinking that we have to do. Then comes a sweet aspect of bhakti, which we'll also look at, in the next session. But I think there's a lot that I've told today. Most important message for us from the 7th chapter is, when Bhagwan says turn towards me, he's actually asking us to turn towards your and my true nature and the true nature of everything around. So, and he's showing that I am there in everything. So don't look at anything as, not part of you. You alone are expressing, you pure consciousness, not Shashi, yeah? You pure consciousness, you alone are expressing as everything. Everything. So he's lifted us to a very great position in this particular chapter. So having said that, I'll stop here. There's a lot to think about, but it's beautiful concepts that now, there's a clarity in our thinking about who God is. More clarity will certainly come in the next shlokas as well, and next chapters. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramayaha, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschid Dukha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.